the Civic Space TV, viewers of the community show, welcome to yet another episode of the community show. This episode is going to focus on a continuation of what we began in the previous couple of weeks, which is digital rights in Uganda in light with emerging technologies. So we are here to continue to evaluate the minds and views of journalists from Western Uganda to enable us to appreciate this conversation. If you're joining us for the first time, please be informed that this show runs every Monday at about this time. So feel free to put your comments on the comment section as we begin the conversation, but also feel free to subscribe to our channel so that you can get weekly notifications about what is happening on the community show. But without further ado, let me dive straight into requesting our panelists for today to introduce themselves to the viewers and also say hello to our lovely audience. I'll begin with Comrade Zadock Amanyisa. Amanyisa, our viewers are listening to you and they can see you clearly. Kindly introduce yourself to them, and also maybe you can say hello to them before we begin our conversation officially. Zadock, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, my brother, for this. I am called Zadock Amanyisa. I work for this monitor and I represent them in the Bushenyi data subdivision. I cover 5 districts of Bushenyi, Shema, Bushenyi, Mutoba, and West. I've been in journalism since 2012. I wouldn't want to say I've served for a long time, but at least I've done some work. And I thank you so much for availing us this opportunity to spend and have a say in the affairs affecting us. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Zadock, for that very elaborate introduction. We are happy to have you today, and I'm glad that this conversation will tap onto your experience and work prowess that you've accumulated over time. Thank you very much. Irene Kirabo, the floor is yours. Kindly introduce yourself and also tell us anything about you. You can use this opportunity to say hello to our viewers. Irene, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. My name is Irene Kirabo. I'm a journalist, radio journalist. I work in Photo. I'm a news editor at 98.5 Cloud FM. I am also a freelance journalist with a daily monitor, also based here in Photo, and I'm so glad to be part of it.
Yes, thank you, Irene. The same way you're glad to be here is where we are glad to have you in this conversation. Many thanks for joining us on time. We expect other panelists to join us, and if they do, we shall by all means, grant them access to join the conversation. But let me begin with you, Zadock. Zadock, you are a well-experienced journalist, just like you've stipulated to us in your introduction. So let the viewers tap into that experience to understand the background of digital rights in Uganda. One thing I know, journalism has evolved, become more quick, reporting has become more, I would say, efficient, because unlike in the previous days, today, as soon as news comes up, someone just goes on their Twitter and posts that news. And before you know it, it becomes the trending conversation. So it seems like journalism and media and reporting have taken a great advantage, but also being disadvantaged with the aspect of digital platforms like Twitter and Instagram and Facebook, among other things. So first and foremost, do we have digital rights in Uganda? And if we have digital rights, are the journalists rights? Like, are they enjoying platforms like Facebook, platforms like Twitter, platforms like WhatsApp to practice that journalism in a more effective way? So Zadock, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, brother, for this opportunity. Thank you, James, for considering us. Journalists are used to covering other people, and sometimes if they don't write their opinion, some of us find it hard to express ourselves in some way or the other. So when you provide such a platform for us to express ourselves, to give in our views, it is a golden one. And I am happy to be part of this kind of discussion. Yes, beginning from what you asked in the beginning, we have digital rights in Uganda. We can access the gadgets, those who can. We can access internet, very expensive. We can use internet, though it is still expensive. But what I can assure you, in Uganda, those who can are able to use the space, putting the challenges aside. And as well as, of course, this files back, this puts us in the alignment as far as the digital rights is concerned. We have two types of journalists. We have those with these featured phones the capabilities. We have journalists using capabilities. We also have journalists using smartphones. And of course, when the internet opportunity avails itself, those with smartphones stand a higher chance of using the space. Because I wonder what one would do with this button phone. I wonder what we would be doing with it. And I've been there in the field struggling. They can't access the information. They can't record. Even if they try to record, they have poor output. It is indeed a challenge for them to get on the board. But I want to assure you that some of us who can access internet, some of us who can who know how to use these gadgets have used the opportunity. Considering the report, Uganda's internet users stands at 10 million users, and the social media penetration stands at 5.6%. Internet penetration of population size is 24.5 according to the World Bank statistics. And journalists are also in that circle. We are using the space to disseminate information. Though we have a challenge of citizen journalists in the court. I always don't want to invade their work, but they are doing us a disservice. It becomes hard for consumers to separate boys from men. And in this case, I think the output of the content would determine which is good and not good. I must say we have been frustrated by everyone wanting to do journalism, and we have found it hard to do our work very well. But it is true we are present on internet, though it is expensive and not favorable in some areas where there is no network. But we are managing slowly by slowly.
Okay. Thank you very much. You are managing slowly by slowly. We shall also continue to have this conversation slowly by slowly. And another panelist has joined us this very minute, and I will request him to unmute and just introduce himself. Job Namara, please introduce yourself. Namanya, rather, please introduce yourself. And then I will have a question for you after I have engaged the comrade Irene.
Good morning. My name is Job Namanya. I'm a journalist. Working for Vision Group in Bushenyi. It's my pleasure to join this discussion and I hope for this. Thank you.
Yes, Namanya, thank you. However, your network is very poor. So I will request that between now and your first question, you'll try to move around and find better internet. But for now, let me engage the comrade Irene and pick her views as Job tries to find better network. Irene, my question to you, the first one is going to be around where comrade Zadock stopped. Zadock says that the level of internet penetration is still very low, even when journalists are trying these emerging technologies like Twitter and Facebook. to become more effective at communication of their facts, and research, it seems as if the penetration of internet is still very low. So let me just tap into your opinion and your introduction regarding this matter. Do you agree with what Zadock said, or you have much more to add or much more less to add to what he said? So Irene, just give us a background of your own opinion.
All right. Thank you so much. So as my colleague Zadock said about internet penetration, of course, first of all, as journalists, we have to first look at how much does internet cost in Uganda, the cost of internet. We have the cost of data and what government brought about the OTT taxes. Remember, right now in Uganda, some social media platforms are off, something like Facebook. So if you're to use Facebook for your communication or giving out any story, you have to know that Facebook is off. Even those who access it using other illegal connections, something like VPN. And then if you're not using VPN, then to access Facebook, you have to pay the OTT, and then you have to pay for data. When you look at us, especially the up-country journalists, like we usually call us the local journalists, you find that sometimes you're in the field, the only free data you have is Wi-Fi at your place of work. For those who have some other stations, they don't have Wi-Fi. So you find you have to buy data, and then the cost of bundles is also increasing. We have even seen people complaining. You find you buy data 100 MBs, and you find you have used that data for like 5 minutes and it is already done. And you find the cost is really high. So every day you have to use much data, then you have to pay for OTT or for other taxes that come with that. And then also another challenge is, especially to do with internet, we have the challenge of internet connection, the network. Especially for us in up-country, I don't know in Kampala how it is, but some networks in some places is totally off. You find you're in a place and then you cannot access something like MTN network, and then you really have to send this information, you have to put it on the internet, but then where you are, all the time you want that message to be given out, because sometimes you find it's a breaking story, it's breaking news, and you really have to do it very fast. But then your network is denying you, it is betraying you. So you find we don't have internet, and then the connection is also very poor, the network. Then something else about internet, you may find, for me as a journalist, yes, I have the internet, maybe at my place of work there is Wi-Fi, and then the connection is clear, and then the speed. But then the person to whom I want to send that message, the local person does not have internet. So sometimes you find we are limited to just a small group of people, to just urban people who can really access the internet or who can use the internet to get the information. So other people, maybe the villages or other people who are illiterate, who cannot use the internet, they just have to wait for news at the radio. And then they will really not be updated, or they will not get the information as soon as you post it on the internet. So they will be left behind. You find people who can access the internet, they have gotten the information, but someone who cannot access the internet will get the information maybe after like 5 hours or after 4 hours, until they hear the information over the radio.
Thank you very much, Comrade Irene. That has been very elaborate, and we continue to appreciate you. Comrade Job Namanya, our colleagues here are giving us their opening remarks, or if I would call it their opinion regarding digital rights in Uganda alongside this. And I think it's only fair that I give you the same opportunity to tell us, what you think about digital rights in Uganda, and just an overview before I can ask you a direct question. So, Job Namanya, the floor is yours.
I really appreciate that very question and the discussion of the rights in Uganda. One is that I agree with
Job, I had asked you to find better network, but it looks like your network is still the same. Could you kindly try to move aside or try to find better network?
I'm saying that I appreciate the fact that we have the mandate to use the various to serve our audience, but we are still limited by challenges. And the other one is that most people do not understand what it is to post on their social platforms. It is post something on their social media platforms. People need with the media houses. So if I post maybe on supposing I post content on either whatever group, and then I think that becomes unfair for us because as individuals we also have mandates to use our various platforms to express our opinions. So as we proceed with discussion, we're very grateful to see how we can our various platforms to express our opinions as individuals, not as mouthpieces for the various houses we read. And that I've also seen a lot of issues here and there on social media, especially the journalists. Most of our colleagues do not appreciate these rights, do not know how to exercise their rights, and we are challenged by the bloggers, by these professionals on social media.
Okay, Comrade Namanya, by all means, your network really was not very clear. I want to request you again that between now and when I next ask you the following question, you've tried to get better network. Otherwise, our viewers really will have to struggle with picking what you're trying to tell us. Let me come to you, Comrade Zadock. Zadock, I'm also going to ask you to be more audible, like Irene was, okay? So, Zadock, as you respond, please be more audible. My question to you, Zadock, is that there has been an emerging issue that, yes, whereas journalists are supposed to be the eyes and ears of the people, I mean, they go find the information, then, communicate that information effectively. There has been a very thin line between what journalists communicate being either authentic or just mere propaganda. Okay, that something happens now, and before you know it, journalist ABCD goes to their Twitter and posts it. Whether it is true or false, they are trying to beat the deadline of breaking the first to break the news. So you will desperately try to post on your Twitter or post on your Facebook that information. And at times it turns out to be false. Okay, so what is the work integrity and work ethic of journalists in Uganda? Because is there a body that holds you accountable in case you communicate misinformation or in case you mislead the public? Is there regulations that are guiding your operations? Otherwise it becomes anarchy. Anyone communicates anything, people are reporting other people dead. So it's a whole tricky situation. So help us shed the difference between what is authentic and what isn't, but also the aspect of journalists trying to be the first to breaking news, therefore leading them to making mistakes like communicating rumors or wrong information.
Well, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Just be louder, but we can hear you.
Okay. Well, I thought the discussion entirely rotated around digital rights, but simply to answer your question, I want you, my brother and fellow analysts, to look at this one fact. We must understand that our profession has been infiltrated. We have people who failed in the bank joining journalism. We have people who were chased from public institutions joining journalism. We have teachers who wrote jobs during the lockdown joining journalism. And the worst of it all, part of it all, they don't attend training, they don't attend journalism schools, they don't get skills. I hear some are trained on jobs, and this has really affected our work. Conventionally, there are guidelines before you write a story, before you publish, before you educate, entertain, and inform the audience. There are guidelines. There are facts to be checked. You need to first make clarifications. You need to first verify. As a journalist, I understand our work begins with enough preparation. To get the information, to get what to feed to your audiences, you must plan. You make a list of what you're going to do. You draw something small of what you're going to do. From your notebook, you go to the field with the devices, with gadgets. You record the story with both in notebook and on your gadget. You have a camera, meaning you have the capacity to gather information. Then you have the topic you are going to talk about. You have a function to attend. There is a meeting going on. There is something that you want to get out of that activity. There is something that you want to get out of that meeting. I was shocked recently, the other day, we were in the field. The MPs sitting on the National Economic Committee, visited here in Bushenyi. So we went to the field with them and started doing our work. Then in the middle, a certain journalist came to me. I had finished interviewing Honorable Abed. This guy asked me what Honorable Abed was saying. I was shocked. He came to the field and started recording. He didn't know what had taken him to the field. And I and other colleagues kept wondering what this guy is going to report. That was caused by going to the field without knowing what you are going to do. This means your output is going to be biased. Your people and the entire audience are going to doubt, to find your work biased because you didn't prepare well. Then after the field, after getting that information, who is your editor? Do you have an editor? Has this editor checked your work? Have you yourself first read your work? What is missing? Then this editor comes in as a gatekeeper. And of course, editors work according to the house style, according to the editorial policy and setting. What does the media house require of you as a reporter, as an editor? Are you doing your work? Have you checked this stuff? So failure for us journalists observe all these guidelines. These conventional and non guidelines has made us do what I may call the work. People pitch holes in our work. Then, like I alluded to in the beginning, we have unqualified people doing the work. We have accountants doing journalism without training. What do you expect these people to put out? Someone will rush to the computer, someone will rush to the phone to break the news. And some of us have actually met the consequences. The consequences have been dire. The roads are in press, guiding us. The roads are in press, checking what we do. Briefly, that's what I can say.
Thank you very much, Zadock. Just stay online. For the benefit of our audience, could you please highlight for us some of these laws that are there to check and balance the work and the profession of journalists? Maybe just cite out maybe one law that our viewers can pick interest in knowing. Irene, hope you're there. Kirabo, Irene, I hope you're still there with us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Irene, if you heard what Zadock said, Zadock told us that the journalism profession has been infiltrated. Okay, people who are not trained, people who are not skilled, are actually doing the work of journalism, and therefore that is where we are seeing the mistakes coming from. So, could you help us distinguish between a blogger and a journalist? Because I think there follow the work of bloggers and what these bloggers tweet and post on their digital platforms, and the line between a blogger and a journalist is not very clear to the ordinary Ugandan out there. So maybe now that we have you, we have the opportunity to understand the difference between a blogger and a journalist. So please, for the benefit of our viewers and also for my own benefit, please shed light in the difference between the two groups of people.
All right. Okay, first of all, I'll start by giving a definition of both who a journalist is and who a blogger is. A blogger is someone who writes regularly for an online journal or a website, but also a blogger is someone who keeps a website, and this may include diary entries, photographs, links, and other sites. And then when we come to a journalist is the person whose job is to collect news and write about it for a media site like a newspaper, a magazine, a television, or a radio. There is a very thin line between a blogger and a journalist, because a journalist can also become a blogger. Only that a journalist is someone who is professional, and that is their job. A journalist is someone who went to a media school or a journalism class, and that is their sole role of collecting news, writing about it, and they give it to a newspaper, a television, radio, or magazine. But then a blogger, someone can do it. It is something like, how do I call it? Someone can just do it for fun or something. Someone can just do it as a passion, or to just spend time doing something like that. You can decide to sit and start writing about something, because you have seen people, they say, me, I'm someone who is good at cooking, and then they start writing blogs about cooking. A chef can become a blogger, writing about cooking, things that happen in the kitchen. Someone who is a travel enthusiast can become a blogger, maybe writing about travel tips and something like that. But also a journalist can become a blogger. You may find a journalist has started maybe a personal blog website, a personal blog, and then they are writing about different things. So that there is a very thin line when you're to look at blogging and journalism, but only that in Uganda right now, bloggers who just do it for passion and for fun and for what have also decided to call themselves journalists. But a journalist to me is someone who has really gone to a journalism school or a media school and started about journalism. Those principles, the principles of news writing, the principles of reporting, things like that. But a blogger, someone who has a skill in writing, can just decide to write about anything, whether it is newsworthy or it is not. But a journalist has to write something that is newsworthy. So that is the difference between, to me, between a blogger and a journalist. But also, as I had said, a journalist can become a blogger. So journalism is the professional way of doing things, and then a blogger is someone who just does it to pass time and, something like that.
Okay, thank you, Irene. Just stay on the line. Let me just ask you one question, just to pick up from where you've stopped. you did agree that the line between journalism and bloggers is quite thin. So in your own understanding, how does this thin line affect the profession of journalism? How are you being affected as journalists as a virtue of the thin line between journalism and blogging? How does that affect your profession?
Now the problem that has come up is that bloggers want to become journalists, yet they are not. They want to take up their role. They want to do things that journalists would be doing. Instead of them writing about regular things or things they would really be talking about, now they want to come up and do things that journalists are supposed to do. A journalist is someone who is professional, who knows what they are supposed to do and what they are supposed maybe to write about. But then they know the principles because in school they were taught, and then they really know the ethics and the laws and the rules and like that. But a blogger, someone just because they know how to write or they have just heard about something, they don't know that giving out that information to the public without first scrutinizing it or going through the rules and the ethics, that information would have an impact on the public. So the problem is bloggers are trying to do the work of journalists, but they do not know how to do it. You understand?
Yes. Okay. Thank you
Yeah,
very
they
much.
want to, yeah, if they get information.
Yes, Irene, thank you very much. We got your point very loud and clear. Comrade Namanya, are you there with us and hope you're on better network now?
Hello. I don't know if I'm very clear right now.
Yes, you're very clear. So, Namanya, my question to you is that our colleagues here have brought out one fundamental issue. And the way Zadock put it, he was like, a professional journalist, you must have your diary, you note down what you're trying to achieve from the field. You have your camera, maybe you have your smartphone in case you want to tweet there and then. But to me, it looks like these are very expensive gadgets that someone must acquire. So my question to you is that how easy are the journalists of today finding it to adapt to the emerging technologies? That because the emerging technologies, like maybe carrying a camera that doesn't need maybe to be charged, or maybe can work on batteries and therefore is much more expensive, or maybe having a smartphone and maybe a modem, a modem or a router, whatever word you can use to refer to it, having a modem so that once you're in the field, you have access to the internet, and then therefore, in case if there's breaking news and you'd like to post it, you get onto your phone and then you post, you have your modem. But all these devices look like they're very expensive, but also the technological background and knowledge is very necessary, because to operate platforms like Twitter, you need to know how to maneuver through, how to create an account. How easy are the journalists of today finding it to adapt to emerging technologies? Or can we assume that because we are in the .com era and we are in the information age, therefore we assume that, oh no, because we are in this era, every journalist really is finding it easy to maneuver through the emerging technologies? So your opinion on that matter, Namanya?
Well, thank you so much, colleagues, on this discussion. We must appreciate that technology is changing day by day, and as this, we have to move with the changing technologies. That's why we have these trainings coming up on digital rights, digital skills, and we should be embracing them if we are to survive in this profession. It is not so easy. It is not that easy for us to adopt to the changing technologies, one, because of the nature of the environment we are working in. You will appreciate, and the colleagues in this panel discussion will appreciate with me, that our earnings are still low as journalists in Uganda. So to get these gadgets, to acquire a good smartphone, to get the routers, to get these MiFis, is not a bed of roses, but it takes some sacrifice. Because on a serious note, there is no journalist who does not have the digital skills who will survive in this profession in the coming years. I'm getting to see some of my elders in the game being kicked out. Because if you see your media house telling you, as soon as you go to cover a story, we expect you to send us pictures, we expect you to send us videos, we expect you to send us audios for our online audience. And for you, you are this kind of journalist who's used to African traditional society journalism, ATS, where you think you will just need a notebook and write down, and then eventually you file either 1 day or 2 days. That won't work. You can't survive. So you need to have everything in place for you to do minute by minute, second by second update. And then maybe finally you come up with the final story of the day. So my issue is that whereas it sounds so hard to achieve, you either go for it or you quit the profession. That's the truth. There is no shortcut here. The world is going digital and we must go with it. So if you are a journalist there and you are still thinking of, you're still not sure of what to do in the world of digital, then trust me, your days are numbered in this profession. I'm not sounding a warning, but it's a reality. If you can see how journalism has been evolving in the last 10 years, in the last 5 years, and where we are now, you can trust me that tomorrow or the years to come, it has to be digital and nothing else but digital. So we have no shortcut, trust me. We have to acquire the skills. We have to look for the minimum gadgets we can have. These smartphones have basically helped us a lot because whereas we are looking for good cameras, whereas we are looking for good recorders, one good smartphone can play a multi-million function for you if you are well equipped with the right applications, if you have the right skills of what to use, of how to do it. And then I would implore my fellow journalists to continue doing trainings here and there. You can go on YouTube, acquire the skills. Yeah, you get those tutorials. You can look out for training opportunities in digital skills because that's the way to go. We have nowhere else to hide but accept the reality. Yeah, that's my take.
Thank you, Job. Just keep it right there. Let me ask you a follow-up question that you brought about in your submission. The aspect of the transition from the traditional means of reporting or the traditional means of journalism to then the today means, which is the emerging technologies. Now, my question is around the economic aspect that that comes with us transitioning into digital journalism. Because, for example, traditional journalism would mean that media houses produce newspapers each and every single day, and these newspapers were an economic advantage to these media houses. But today, this information is now available online. I don't need to buy a newspaper. I don't need to buy a magazine. I just have to go online and look for maybe NBS or New Vision or whatever media house I'll have to look out for, and I have all the information there. So aren't the media houses losing from the aspect of this transition? Because whereas they used to get money from selling newspapers, now they don't. So how are media houses coping up with this economic difference, and how are they compensating that gap that comes with not selling newspapers?
Well, thank you so much. I have seen media houses coping up with the digital changes. For example, I'll give an example of the New Vision. The new vision is one of the media houses we have in Uganda that is going so digital. If you're following up how the trends are moving, they introduced the e-paper, where you have to access the newspaper online. You pay some money, less than even what you would have paid to buy a printed newspaper. So people are getting to appreciate the digital way of reading a newspaper online. And then secondly, I'm seeing most of the media houses also trying to bring up, digital campaigns here and there. They try to advertise, they are trying to design their content in a way that will appeal to the digital audience. However, I can't rule out the fact that traditional media still matters. As we are going digital, as we are appreciating the digital way, traditional media still matters. So, as journalists, we have to find a way of giving different content in the traditional media and then different content in the digital media. Because even if it's one story happening, today you've broken it online. What comes out tomorrow in the newspaper, if you survive, should be an article with what we call day two journalism principles. Okay, if Katuna border Uganda and one has been reopened, broken that story online. So what am I going to find in the newspaper that will attract me to read that paper? Maybe you need to go deep and analyze the entire border reopening story. You need to go deep and tell us how people have lost A, B, C, D. You need to show us, you need to paint the picture of what we should expect from the reopening. So give us a more detailed story following in a newspaper that we had not seen on your website, that we had not seen on your Facebook page or on your Twitter handle. So these are the things we need to look up for. But economically, media houses must plan for digital campaigns. They must plan for ways of generating money or using their digital platforms. I've seen media advertising now on their social media handles. They are running adverts on their social media handles. That means even the audience we serve, even the clients we serve, have appreciated the digital way of doing things. So we have no option but to go digital. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Let me come to Zadock. Zadock, I'm glad that this is now stable.
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Zadock, let us go to the legal framework a little bit, okay? Article 44 of the Ugandan Constitution talks about non-derogable rights. And these are four. I'll just mention them to you. The right to habeas corpus, the right to a fair hearing, the freedom from torture, and freedom from being a servant. So meaning digital rights are exactly not non-derogable rights. So meaning they are not inherent, they are not God-given rights. So that means that the state regulate these rights, more so when the right bearers misuse these rights. The state can come in to regulate, and in their process they could, end up, I would say, infringing on the of citizens. Okay, for example, if I'm a journalist and I go online and I miscommunicate something, yes, as a journalist, I have a right to use my media platform, but also the citizens have a right to accurate and right information. So in your right to express your journalism, you're infringing on my right to access right information or correct information. So my question, to be specific, do you think at times journalists or other people, in their interest to espouse their digital rights, they end up infringing on the rights of others?
I'll begin with a yes. As the Constitution provides for freedom of speech, like it has been said over and over again, it is very important that when you are thinking of freedom of speech, you also think about the freedom after speech. the state area for the handling us down. We have seen the state handling human rights defenders down because of what they have said, because of what they have written down. And you know, we have faced all sorts of inadequate laws. We applied subjectively and collective, and this has really stamped down our rights, our freedom of expression. We have seen these laws being made without considering our voices. We have labor laws being formulated without the public consideration, and the implementation has become hard. We have seen these laws negating the constitutional guarantees of Article 27 and 29 of the 1995 Constitution. For example, during the year election, we saw government shutting down the internet and social media without considering the impact on the economy, especially on individuals and organizations that do, and even governmental agencies that do work and run services online. Such an environment summarizes the state of affairs in Uganda's freedom of expression in the court. However, like I said, while we are expressing ourselves in this freedom of speech thing, we need to think about the freedom after speech. Like you well know that the government doesn't want this. In fact, you're going to do a do or die project. Is that project worth your life? Why would you go on? We must remember that as journalists, we have the regulations in place. We have the Press and Journalists Act of 1995 set out under the Press and Journalists Act, Capital 105. We have the Code of Ethics for Journalists observed by the National Institute of Journalists of Uganda. We are required to register. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
we can hear you. Just continue, Zadock.
Yes, for example, in the Code of Ethics, journalists shall disseminate information or allegations without establishing its correctness or truth. As a matter of fact, we confide journalists. We are not rushed to social media to spread the rumor. This rumor we at the end bring you problems. No journalist shall solicit or accept bribes in an attempt to publish or suppress the publication of the story. We have had friends going into the field and soliciting bribes. Some colleagues threatening the sources that if you don't do this and this and this, I'll publish your story, and you'll end in two problems. We have seen journalists obtain information through unskillful principles. We have seen them do all sorts of things reporting. While we are educating, entertaining, and informing the public, let us have at the back of our mind the regulations in place. Yeah, currently we may tell that the the environment is not all that favorable. But we can see how it moves. Because trust me, if you find yourself in problems, but you understand the law and what you did doesn't put you out as far as the law is concerned, you will be safer. When you are doing your work, you will move well and do your work in a safe and favorable way. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Zadock. Irene, let me come to you. Irene, I know for sure that as journalists, you have an association that is currently headed by yes, boss, if I'm correct, right?
We have many associations, and not every journalist subscribes. I think you're trying to mean Wuja.
There is the one that is headed by, is it called Carissa?
Oh, broadcasters, National Broadcasters Association.
Yes.
National Association of Broadcasters.
Yes, that one. Now, my question is that the role of these associations, you've said there are so many and you subscribe to different, but I have to speak to that general role and responsibilities. When journalists' rights are being infringed, I saw sometimes journalists being beaten by police. I have seen them being in really a difficult situation. So my question is the role of these associations. Are they actually helping journalists to advocate for their rights, to really protect journalists, to ensure that the laws that protect journalists are put in place? Or they're just there, as mere associations, but their roles are not felt by the journalists like you?
Okay, yeah, some of these associations, especially the one that fights for journalists' rights, is the bigger one is the Human Rights Network for Journalists, HRNJ, that is the director is Mr. Robert Sempala. It is the one that is so much on board that usually comes out to help journalists. But first of all, for you to be helped by these associations, you have to be a member who subscribes to them. So if you're a journalist and you're not a member of this association, yes, they may come in, but it will first take long or take a process. Sometimes they are journalists who are, maybe they are assaulted or their rights are infringed on, but they keep quiet, they don't come out to speak. And sometimes those associations will not know what has happened to the other journalists. But then on another perspective, these associations, they come out to help sometimes when they get to know about something has happened. We have seen like HRNJ, they have even helped journalists where need is, they go to court, then they give them lawyers, and then they give them legal advice. Sometimes they also help them to get medical attention. Let's say a journalist has been assaulted and then they have got wounds and then they have got injured. They go to the hospital and they fund for them, they cater for their medical bills, or they look for a way of catering for them. So, but the problem is some of these associations, they don't reach everywhere. They are in Kampala, and you find in other parts of the country, these associations do not reach. Even I know there are some places where some journalists have never heard that there are associations which are there to help them. So you find the association is there, but it is in Kampala, it is fighting for the rights of people in Kampala. They are not back up country, they are not helping journalists up country. So you find journalists up country are going through challenges, but they do not even know that there are some associations or some organizations which are there to help them. Or sometimes you find, yes, they know that there is an organization I can run to, but they don't know how, because the association is in Kampala, and then you find maybe the association does not have an office or a contact person in some regions, or where a journalist is and who needs help. So you may find sometimes the journalist has given up running to such organization or association for help. And then the other thing is sometimes those as organizations also are constrained especially to do with funding. You find, yes, they have known, but then they also, their hands are tied on helping you sometimes. But then my appeal is that journalists, because we know that right now in Uganda, our work has become risky. It's as if journalists have become enemies of the state, because sometimes you find we fear talking about different issues because you never know. You might talk about something and then the following day they say you have annoyed the president, or something like that. So because our work right now has also become that much, we are so much right now in fear of what we are doing. We should also look out to such organizations and associations that come in to help journalists. If you know an association, you can look for it, you subscribe for it, or you get in contact with people in it, so that in future, maybe when something happens to you, those people come back to help you. Because when they don't know you, or you're not their member, or they don't know anything about you, it also becomes hard for them to come on ground and help you and maybe offer you support in any other way.
Yes.
I hope that that answers the question.
Yes, Irene, thank you. But just a follow-up question. With the way you've described it, it looks like these associations, some of them are doing a good job. I mean, if they go ahead to get you legal services, get you medical attention and all that, it sounds like insurance. So, and insurance comes with a monetary aspect. So, speak to the aspect of membership of these associations. Do you have to pay to be a member? Because the benefits seem like they are quite enormous. So is there a subscription fee or a membership fee that you have to pay to be a member as a journalist so that you can benefit from these services? Or you simply have to go and register and then they have to know you and then they can, do what you just described for us?
Oh, of course, just like any other associations, whether it is a business association or what, you have to pay. They have something like membership fee, and then when you're registering to become a member, you pay registration fee. But of course, they know journalists, and these people who start up these organizations, most of them are former journalists, so they know how journalists, and they know our income and our way of living. So their prices or their registration or membership fee or upkeep fee is a bit subsidized, and because they know what we go through, they know our pockets, they know our economics, they charge a little bit of, some amount that is really affordable. But of course, you have to pay. You have to pay annual subscription being a member, because you have to be an active member. Then you have to pay membership fee, some registration fee, something like that. But of course, you have to pay some money to register or to become a member to such an organization.
Okay, Irene, thank you very much for that submission. Let me go to Namanya. Namanya, hope you're still there. Namanya, my question to you is one, the role of regulating institutions and regulatory frameworks like Uganda Communications Commission, and maybe you can look at the Ministry of ICT. Let us speak, let's get your mind regarding their roles and responsibilities. Do you think these institutions have actually done a good job regarding regulating the journalism and media profession, but above all regarding regulating the access to digital platforms like Facebook, Twitter, more so under cases where they perceive that these platforms are being misused? So let's speak to the role of institutions, more so government, and how they affect the day-to-day work of journalists.
Thank you so much. I like the direction we are taking in this very discussion, and I'm optimistic that by the end of the day, we shall have digested this issue very well. So you brought it very well when you asked about the role of these regulating institutions and government in guiding how we do our business online. Yeah, I appreciate the presence of a regulatory framework for digital accessibility and usage in Uganda. But I still feel a lot needs to be done. We do not have to see our regulators coming up only when stuff has been posted against government, or stuff has been posted against the first family, or stuff has been posted against so and so. That's not the only that's not the only way we should see our regulators coming up to take action. No, that's not the only line they should be focusing on. No, if you are to regulate the entire content that is published online. Come and guide. Come and show us where we need to work. For example, I've not seen UCC training journalists on responsible digital usage. No, I've not seen them do that. So how do you expect a journalist to come up and responsibly use their digital platforms when you've not directed them the right way? So you'll find us journalists also acting like bloggers. You'll find us journalists also posting like influencers. I hate that statement, but it's a fact. It exists. You'll find us also promoting sentiments here and there, propaganda, just because we've not been directed the right way. So I think instead of regulating, instead of cracking the whip when someone has touched the wrong button of the state, the regulators should come and do more of the sensitization, do more of the guidance. And then when we break the law that we know, or when we act contrary to what we were taught, someone comes out and says, you know, last time it's you I was telling about ABCD. How come you did this? You know, you get to appreciate their way of doing things. This is a country where we've seen more people going astray because of ignorance. And I must say, journalists are not spared as well. We have a breed of journalists in Uganda who do not pay attention to information, who do not pay attention to policies. Their work is to wake up in the morning and then they just publish whatever comes out of their minds. You see, we have channels now online channels, online televisions that are not regulated at all. I wake up in the morning, start up my online YouTube TV, and I start posting whatever content I want. We've seen UCC taking more action on these mainstream media platforms, but we've not seen UCC regulating online channels. You remember a channel like Ghetto TV. Ghetto TV is strictly online, but it's a political platform for the NUP. And now, if Ghetto TV comes up in the morning, we wake up, NIM has its own platform that is doing journalistic work, but in an unprofessional way. So where is UCC in this case? Where is the government? Where are the regulators? So we need to have also guidelines that are very clear, that will guide the way we do things as regulators. That's my take.
Job, just stay there because I have two questions for you. You're asking UCC to go and do an extra mile of training journalists. Then what is the purpose of you going through the professional training that you go through either at Makerere or whatever institution that you go to? What is the role of that training? Therefore, if again UCC has to train you how not to post wrong information, how not to spread rumors, your ethics of work are taught to you in school when you're attending this profession. So I too much by asking UCC to go ahead and train you on what you already know or what you already were trained to in school to do? Isn't that unfair? So just respond to that.
I must that some of us know what to do because we have gone to class, but in the profession, journalism, we have, I think the majority of the practitioners are not trained journalists per se. The majority of the practitioners have come to practice journalism because they have passion for it, but they are not necessarily journalists who are qualified in this field, you know. So when I ask UCC or the government come up and remind us of what we are supposed to do, I'm not asking for too much because I know they know that we have practitioners in journalism who are not professional journalists, who are not qualified by academics. So such people are pulling us down, and we have appreciated that these people have to remain. We have to work with them. There is no way. There is no way this government. There's no way this. There's no way we shall have people saying, let's do away with people who don't have degrees. Let's do away with people who don't have diplomas in journalism from the profession. No, the profession has opened gates for whoever feels like reporting, for whoever feels like exercising their information distribution interest to come up and do this profession called journalism. But we need to have them reminded of the professional way of doing things. Otherwise, for us who are professional, we have definitely remained professional, but the waves have changed a lot because of the unprofessional people who are trying to pick up.
Okay, thank you very much. My last question will be a cross-cutting question to all of you. And I'll begin with Zadock, then Irene, then finally Job. It is the same question, but you'll answer it in your own way. So the question is that, do you think that Uganda has the legal framework and the technological infrastructure to support journalists to do their work? So Zadock, respond to that. Then I'll go to Irene, then finally Job.
Thank you for this question. We have a legal framework in place, and if I went by
Zadock, try to be audible. Try to be audible. Get the phone closer. Try to be audible.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, but put the phone right on your mouth. Okay, near your mouth, sorry.
Okay, thank you. I was saying that if I went by what people have been saying, road and policy have a very good legal framework in place affecting different sectors, including ours, the media. We have many laws relating to this regulatory framework, and they are impressed. We know them, some we know, others we don't know. But what I think is missing is the capacity of implementers to make sure that these laws are well applied and they are working. For example, we have been trying non-confined trying of these influencers doing all sorts of data work, but the government is quiet. They will only come up during elections to guard freedom of speech. They will only come when they have an interest in a certain area. So I think what matters is having the laws well spelled out is one thing, but having them work for the good of Ugandans is another thing, and that is very important. Let the law do its work, let it be applied so that our output as members of the media method is well monitored for the general interest of the public. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Kirabo. And sorry, Irene, the same question goes to you.
Okay, all right. Now, you said the legal framework and technological structure to support journalists, right?
Yes.
Okay, currently in Uganda, we have laws governing journalists. We have the Press and Journalists Act of 1995, but 1995 is way too back. Really, this law has to be, they call it doing what?
Amended. Amended.
It has to be amended because 1995, something like the internet was not there. So we don't have clauses talking about the internet and things like that. So I think this act of 1995, there has to be some amendment in it for it to be up to date. We have the Media Council regulations, we have the 1995 Constitution, which talks about the freedom of expression. The Constitution gives every Ugandan a right to expression, and that is even where journalists come in. But sometimes you find our freedom of expression has really been infringed. We have been stepped on. Yes, the Constitution is saying you have the freedom of expression, you can say whatever you want, you can do whatever you want. But I will say something, not even specifically as a journalist, but as a Ugandan. I'll say something or I'll post something on my social media page, but then the following day you will find I've been arrested for annoying the person of this or for an intention to annoy someone like that. So is that how the freedom of expression works? Like, I think if the laws are there, then the government also has to respect the law. Yes, you say we have a freedom of expression, but why is it that when I say something and then you blame me of having an intention to annoy someone? How do you know that what I have written is intentionally meant to annoy the other person? What if me, I wrote it, it is maybe I was just joking or it is just my opinion? Does it mean that my opinion has to annoy someone? I know to some extent, yes, you see, sometimes we as Ugandans, we also misuse that freedom of expression. But then sometimes you also find that sometimes you are really meant to shut up because you will fear saying something because it is going to annoy someone, or you don't know. They will charge you of misuse of your computer or misuse of your words. Sometimes also, according to the laws, the legal framework, sometimes when the government is making some laws, I think it also has to bring on board the journalists, and then they first ask them, what do they think? They also give out their opinion, not specifically. Maybe something like UCC or the Uganda Media Council going to their boardroom, sitting down and enacting laws. I think they have to first consult these other people, the media, because they are the people who will be affected by these laws. Yes, we know everything has to be regulated, there has to be a law. But then sometimes these people who are going to be regulated, let their views first be listened to. Let them engage them before they make these laws. Something happened the other time when we were going to have elections last year, 2021. Uganda Media Council came out saying, journalists, you have to first register with Uganda Media Council, and then you have to be accredited by Uganda Media Council for you to cover elections. And then they brought up a fee. You have to pay this amount of fee as a journalist or as a media house, but they had not first consulted They had not first consulted the media houses and the journalists themselves. That is why you see at the end, journalists went to court, and then even though the judgment came out late, but court said it was really illegal, it was not right for the Uganda Media Council to come up with such regulations. So what if those regulations were meant to be laws, and then at the end of the day you find they made them laws, but then they were illegally enacted. So that is why I'm saying, if we are to have a legal framework that favors both the government and the journalists, then there has to be a cooperation between both journalists, the media, and then these other government organizations that come up with these legal laws and legal frameworks. Then about the technological structure, I really don't know if Uganda has really advanced to that level of helping maybe independent media houses in technology, because I don't see government helping really the media or journalists in technology with all these things that are coming up with taxes, and then with other these laws. You find the internet has really been blocked, and then yet you know that journalists use the internet because we are in a digital world. And then for you as government, you say we are blocking the internet in the country for a week, and then how are journalists going to do their work? How are you supporting them when you're blocking the mainstream thing they are using to give out like? And also, I think just like during lockdown, our government had said they are giving out free data to students who are using the internet for studying, and then they had removed OTT for students. I think government to also support the media in their work, they have to also remove some taxes or subsidize the rates of data that we use, because right now journalism has totally become digital. Sometimes you find something happens and then it will not even be published in a newspaper, but it will be put on the online space of that newspaper. So you find some things are not discussed on radio or on TV or in the hard copy of the newspaper, but they are put on the internet. So the government may be scrapping off some internet taxes, and then also regulating those telecommunication companies that sell us data, maybe to make sure that sometimes they reduce the cost of data, because we are really using this data in this digital era. So you find a media house has to really have a burden of buying data or sharing the costs of that so as to give out the information to the public. But if government would come out and give a helping hand to journalists or these media houses, maybe to see how they share the costs of data internet.
Okay, thank you very much, Comrade Joe. You have the last opinion on that question.
Thanks a lot, and I appreciate what my colleagues were able to come up with. And like Zadock and Irene were saying, we have the legal framework in Uganda, but it is not well implemented. It is not well researched, and at times its implementation is selective. So you find job being accused of breaking this law here, and then Zadock, who is doing it in the same way, but maybe with a different approach, is not being accused of the same. So that selective implementation of the law has made Ugandans feel maybe we don't deserve to respect some of these laws, because if I break the law and I'm not charged, and the other one breaks it, they are charged. So what is the essence of having the law? So as journalists, we also find ourselves in these scenarios as well. But secondly, I feel we've not had the most appropriate laws followed in regulating our industry as journalists. So if the Constitution of Uganda defines a journalist as someone who is having a specific qualification, who is registered with the Media Council, or who is registered, who is supposed to be registered by government, who is supposed to be licensed to do ABCD, if that is what the Constitution prescribes, and then you find us having all these people claiming to be journalists without these qualifications. So where do we see the law at work? What makes journalism special here in Uganda? What defines our journalism? What defines our practice? Who is a journalist? Who is not a journalist? That debate has been going on. For example, if someone who has not gone to a journalism class, if someone of that sort breaks a law in journalism, when he goes to court, do you charge him as a journalist, or you charge him as a normal person who is trying to be a journalist? So those are the things we need to start looking at now. And then about enabling our digital functions as
About
journalists.
technology.
I think, about the technology, right? I think
Yes.
government has not done a lot. Government has not enabled us a lot, because if you look at the cost of using internet in Uganda, if you look at the cost of accessing internet, and now this OTT also came in, you realize that our technological advancement as a country is still low, and it's not so favorable, especially towards us, the journalists. So if someone wakes up in the morning and they shut down Facebook for now close to 2 years and nobody is bothered, and we have journalists who use Facebook as a platform to disseminate information. So you realize that this country is not so favorable when we talk about technology. And for us as journalists, it's a struggle for the fittest. So I would beg, like Irene was saying, I would beg us to have a fairer way of doing things. Maybe now that we've known that technology, internet is a right, it should be made clear that technology now is a right for every Ugandan. So when some of these things are coming up, when some of these bills are coming up, when some of these taxes are coming up, let's all be involved. Let's be consulted. Let's not just wake up in the morning and then we find a certain law, and then we find a certain bill, and then we find a certain tax imposed on us. So to me, I would appreciate what is going on only if it was general and well implemented. But at the moment, a lot is still lacking. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Those to me sounded more like your recommendations and your concluding remarks, but I'll give each and every one of you just 1 single minute, and I will insist just 1 minute. So please use only 1 minute to give us your last words on the show. So I'll begin with Zadock, Irene, then conclude with Joe. Please use 1 minute to give us your last words on the show, as our time is fast spent. Zadock, you have the floor.
But I appreciate you guys for allowing us to have this space for discussing this very topic. I would personally link digital rights to freedom of expression, allowing people to access, use, create, as they express their opinions, and in our case as journalists, to do our cardinal duties of informing, entertaining, and educating masses across different platforms in the communication world. So from that background, I would call upon the government of Uganda, sectors and bodies, to be serious on observing these laws, to be serious on how they regulate communication, on how they regulate media, and also to be serious on this issue of internet costs. I have heard that Uganda has packaging. How I wish government would come down and address this issue, because internet is very important. Internet is a right, as we talk. They should come down to reduce their cost. Let government, communication company, to make sure that there is a reduction, so that the expression of views, expression of opinion can be well facilitated. I thank you so much for this space.
Okay, thank you. Irene, you have 1 minute, your last words.
Anyway, my last word, I would like to thank Civic Space TV for hosting me and my colleagues and to talk about this really critical issue about the digital rights. My last word to journalists is that in this digital era, as journalists, we really have to embrace the use of technology, the use of the internet, because right now the world is moving at a very high speed, especially to do with the internet. We really have to learn and to be updated what new thing has come, especially to do with technology, and we try as much as possible to learn how to use these new technological devices that have come up. And then another thing I would like to ask government, especially to stop these restrictions they are putting on the use of internet and the cost of data and the taxes that are being put. And then also to look into the laws that are being put governing the use of the internet. But also, since we are also given a chance of using the internet, let us really use it very well. Let us not use our right of expression, but also to annoy the rights of other people. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Joe, you have 1 minute. You have 1 minute.
Thanks a lot, and I appreciate this discussion has been important, and I believe it is timely. So for the journalists like me, it is time for us to pull our socks a little bit higher if we are to move in the profession and if we have to get the best out of it. We need those digital skills. We need to know our rights as journalists, and then we need to be more available for change. Yeah, we need to appreciate that the world is changing. We need to appreciate that that we can do work in a more different way. It's no longer the way it used to be. And then government should also come up and create an enabling environment for us as journalists to exercise.
Yes, thank you very much. I take this opportunity to appreciate all our viewers who have taken the time this afternoon to join us for our conversation. We highly appreciate your company, and please feel free to put your comment on the comment section and let us know what we should do to make this show, the community show, a much more lovely and interesting show for you. To our panelists, Comrade Zadock, Comrade Irene, and Comrade Job, thank you very much. You've been amazing as a panel, and I've learned a lot from you, and I'm sure our viewers have learned a lot from your in-depth knowledge around journalism. From me to you and to the viewers, thank you very much once again. My name is Kidega Moses, and until next week, have a lovely day, enjoy the rest of your week, and have a blessed afternoon. See you next week. Bye-bye.